21! 21? Remember that?
No.
Remember that shit? Remember that
No, I don't, actually.
Remember that meme?
No, I don't.
All those memes, kids?
I'm not very familiar with the memes.
It's 'cause you're not hip and cool like me, Vape Nation, y'all.
Vape Nation?
Yeah, it's short for,
What's the Vape Nation?
Vaporization Nation.
Vapor... What?
Oh, I guess it's some group of weird, like, terrorists that want to annihilate the universe and, like, vaporize the nation or something. I don't know. I never really understood it. I don't follow it.
Yeah, that seems kind of weird. Yeah, that does seem kind of like terrorists.
Yeah.
I mean...
Vaporize the nation.
Yeah.
It's, just pretty weird.
It sounds like the terrorists of a Michael Bay movie.
We're going to vaporize the ocean. Once the
We
water
are the
supply is
Vape
gone,
Nation.
all the fish will die.
Or maybe it's like a terrorist organization in a Godzilla movie.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, because do you remember that Godzilla movie?
The first one?
Where they vaporize all the oxygen in the water?
Yeah, I do. I saw that.
Everything in it skeletizes?
That makes no sense.
It's
like watching an episode of Star Trek from the 1960s. The science isn't the point.
It was an allegory for the nuke! Do you get it?
Yeah, I get it.
I'll give them way more of a pass for it then. Because
Yeah.
that was, like, right after that. They were very clearly still upset, and they had every right to be.
Man, Japan and nuclear stuff in general, they have a complicated relationship.
They have a really rough time with nuclear energy.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Japan.
Poor Japan. They have to escape from the fact that they're in a tiny country full of radiation by watching shows about magical teenage underage magical girls who are drawn like 20-year-olds.
Or 20-year-olds who are drawn like teenage girls.
Or teenage girls wearing strips of tape over their nipples.
Man, poor Japan. Not only do they have to constantly blur out everything fun, but they also have to deal with the radiation. This is horrible. I'm so sorry.
We're sorry, Japan.
I would like to formally apologize. Do I have to write an apology letter to the country of Japan?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. We're working on the 2017 system now. Japan is my city. You remember that?
No, I don't actually.
Hey, so I have my PS4 on right now, and it has the loudest fan ever. It's so loud. It sounds like a vacuum cleaner.
Cover it up.
No, it'll just catch on fire.
Yes, that's what PS4s do.
I gotta find Mia in this strange mansion in Louisiana. I'm sure everything will be fine. Alright, so you and I both have a lot of stuff to talk about, just because it's been such a crazy past couple of days.
How's life?
Well,
anything interesting happened the past few days for you? Like,
a couple
say, on Twitter, perhaps?
Yeah. Okay, so if anyone following me on Twitter and also staying in tune with the podcast, you'll know that I had a bit of a disagreement with a certain writer.
Is this writer Guillermo del Toro? Because you thought that him having a sex scene involving a fish person and a human was kind of weird? No,
it was a different person who has even
fish
fatter and probably has even weirder fetishes. Oh, no, anyway. So, without naming names, said writer is currently working on a certain comic book character that I'm particularly knowledgeable and fond of.
Deadpool?
Dude, cut it out. Don't. We're just. It's.
You wear Deadpool stuff all the time. You are the Deadpool person. How could I not assume that you had a Twitter conversation with the writer on Deadpool?
Because the writers on Deadpool aren't cunts. I'm sorry.
What?
Bleep that out.
Bleep what out? I didn't hear what you said.
I said a very bad word. No, the writers on Deadpool aren't terrible people who are constantly trying to ruin everything for everyone.
Were it the writers for Punisher?
No. Okay, it's someone who's writing a certain Spider-themed character.
Spider-Gwen?
Yeah, that one. Yeah, totally. Anyway, this writer and I, because I guess one of my people from like my Discord server, because I checked it yesterday, had asked a question to him about when comics will stop being so like politically focused and will start like focusing on good storytelling again. And this writer had a bit of a fit and started going on about how comic books have always been political. You guys are just dumb. Every generation has the same complaints. Without actually listening to what anyone was saying, and it's the politics is fine. That's a component of it. Every good superhero has some kind of political statement.
For example, Deadpool is a member of the Green Party.
Yes. But more specifically,
and Spider-Man is a Marxist.
Yeah. But
you never noticed this whole time that Spider-Man secretly believes that the proletariat should revolt against the bourgeoisie.
Why do you think he loves the color red so much?
Yeah, exactly.
Now, anyway, well, I felt it necessary to hop in because he started going, has anyone ever thought of any generation of comic books that hasn't had politics? And I said, nope, but I can think of several that weren't as poorly written and ham-fisted back when it actually had, a message and impact and wasn't awful. And then him and I got into a conversation, and because I have so many followers on Twitter now, everyone saw it, and then they started following it, and then kind of replying to him too, and then he ended up having a 5-hour-long conversation with 8 people who were all yelling at him about how bad his writing has gotten because he keeps shoving in weird, kind of inappropriate political stances and statements. And he was not listening to anybody. His strategy is to just put his fingers in his ears and go, la 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 la, I'm not listening, and then assume everyone who has any kind of dissenting opinion is some kind of internet troll.
Well, you are an internet troll. I mean, you make YouTube videos, and everybody who makes YouTube videos is automatically a troll, right?
Yeah, according to Nick Spencer, you gotta look out for those YouTube idiots.
Who's Nick Spencer?
He's the guy who wrote Captain America to be a Nazi. And then had to backpedal it because everyone was pissed.
Well, Captain America is a Nazi. Didn't you see him punching Nazis in World War II? Punching Nazis means that you are a Nazi.
Oh my god, it's spreading. All you have to do is make physical contact with them. Okay, what if you run... What if you get run over by one of them with your car? With their car, okay?
Well, you can't be a Nazi if you're dead.
That's true. Oh, man. This is a weird opening to this episode.
I was planning to do something completely different, but, whatever.
You know why? Here's the thing. I think people like the rich improvisational nature. You think it's going to go one way, and then it goes another,
So, speaking of Nazis, do you want to hear about some fun stuff that I've been doing in college?
Sure.
Okay. So, I wouldn't call this a Nazi per se, but I had some very interesting political beliefs espoused by a professor. So, time for story time with, me.
Story time with Dave-ol.
Dave-ol? That works.
I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, so, I have a class, which is a history class. I don't remember the exact name because I don't care.
No one does.
No one does, so it's perfectly natural. So, I was doing this history class, and we were talking about a reading of a Greek oratory, because, history, 101, you talk about a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So, we're talking about this bit of Greek oratory which called for, basically higher demands, that there's a duty that a person has to the state to maintain it. And then my professor talked about that, and my professor for this history class loves to get on long random tangents.
That's how college professors do.
Yeah, and he does this really annoying thing where he'll walk back and forth. He'll pace at the front of the classroom, and he'll look forward. But he doesn't look directly at you, so if you want to raise your hand to ask a question or something, you have to time it right so he's actually looking at you when you've got your hand raised, otherwise it doesn't matter. So here he is, standing at the front of the room, pacing back and forth, talking about how there's a duty to the state and doing it to future generations and past generations. And then I'm just sort of zoning out because I kind of get the point, and he's repeating himself a lot, and I'm kind of bored.
Yeah.
You know how it gets when there's like the last 5 to 10 minutes in the period, and you're just thinking, what else could I be doing with my time right now? You get that?
Yeah. There's like the last 5 to 10 minutes where you're just like, dude, you've already said everything that can be said today. Now you're just kind of like trying to wait out the clock. It's very obvious. Just let us leave early. Who cares?
And so he's doing that. And then I sort of phase back into the realm of what he's talking about when I realize that he might be talking about homework. But instead, he sort of makes a sort of like a snide comment about how maybe that's changed today and they expect things out of the government and instead of expecting to serve the state or something. And then he quoted, Kennedy. And then, of course, there's a German kid in my class, a kid from Germany who lives outside of Frankfurt. So, of course, he talked about that. And then, I don't remember because I phased out again, but then when I phased back in, they were talking about immigration in modern day and how thanks Merkel for this stuff that's happening, and I have no idea what any of this has to do with Pericles and the duty of the state, because I have completely... Wait, no, I'm remembering it now. What happened was that they were talking about how there's a duty to the state to have kids so that the future generations continue the culture that's been established. And then they talk about that, and then they go on to how there's greater birth rates amongst immigrants, and immigrants are moving into European countries. None of this has anything to do with Pericles, but okay, good, whatever.
No, we're completely off topic now, but it's the teacher's opinion, so it's important that he shoves it in your face.
Exactly. This professor loves to go on those tangents. He once said that he wouldn't have let his daughter go to the daycare that she's going to if he'd seen some literature that he disagrees with there, like, say, a book that acknowledges that gay people exist.
Oh.
So, whatever.
But one of those kind of professors.
He is, but more to the point. We're moving on. And then he's talking about immigration and changing demographics in Europe. Thanks, Angela Merkel. And then, of course, the German student chimes in, and he says, "Oh, do you know in Frankfurt? The more than half of them are foreign-born." And yes, that's true. But I looked it up, and it's not all like the people that people traditionally associate with bad immigration. You know, how they think, like, good immigration is, like, European immigration, and bad immigration is, like, non-European immigrants. And it's mostly just people from other EU countries who are moving into work because of the Schengen area. So that's completely dumb in terms of an argument.
But he's still, like, yelling it at your face.
Whatever. I didn't chime this in because I was thinking, okay, whatever. Just get back on topic. Let's go. Let's just
get back on topic, Mr. Teacher Man. We got what's the homework for tonight?
So then
need all this
he says,
stuff?
yes, I agree with that. That's terrible. Oh, and can we agree that today we are in a low point in Western culture?
What?
And that's the point when I just thought, okay, this conversation has gone completely off the rails. And then him and, like, the German student, and there's also, like, a veteran in the class, just sort of went on this long thing about immigration and just betraying Western values and how you're not having kids and all this stuff. And then somehow he said, okay, let's just end the class. Here's what you have to do to reading. And then after that, he keeps going. And then somehow, now he's talking about the NRA and how gun legislation in California is increasing crime because the good people who are supposed to have guns are not having guns. And I just think, Where did we...
This is a history
class,
class,
This is a history
guys.
class. Can you not bring up the NRA?
No, man, it's totally fine. No, this is totally what you should be talking about in history class.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
So, I hesitate to call my professor racist, but I thought that would make a catchy clickbait headline, so we can put that in the title of the video.
Oh, okay, so you, dumb writers and racist teachers. There you go. Clickbait. Everyone's gonna want to watch this one now.
So what did you think?
What did I think of your teacher?
Yeah.
I think he sounds like a very infuriating person to listen to because he kind of reminds me of that writer I was talking about, but on the exact opposite end of the political spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one of those people that if you argue or have any kind of point to make against them, they'll just go, "So what you're saying is," and then throw some dumb thing that you didn't say at all in your face to try and make you look bad.
If you can't trust the government to provide enough pencils for everybody in schools, then why would you trust them with healthcare?
What?
That was a thing that was said.
What school doesn't have enough pencils?
Well, the point
what
that they were
school in America is having a
no.
shortage of pencils?
That's the point. The point is that the free market determines that, and that we don't need government intervention to provide enough pencils. So why would we need government intervention to provide enough health care?
I like this weird sort of like semi-Plinkett voice you do when you're mocking. But yeah, okay. That just seems like a weird... I don't know, man. I feel like I would probably be zoned out like 50% of the time in that class. Just I'd be waiting to hear, okay, assignment is... And then other than that, it would just be like looking at my phone under my desk.
There was a kid in the corner of my class who does that just all the time. I sat next to him once and I thought, you've got the right idea. Unfortunately, I couldn't do it that day because
sometimes you want to like make fun of that kid for not paying attention. But then, is it really? What's the alternative? It's just listen to this guy just jerk off to his opinion for an hour and a half.
Well, I couldn't do it this time because I was sitting in the front row, so he would have noticed.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Otherwise, I would have done it.
You sit in the back row, like I do. Well, so you can just do whatever.
The seats were already taken because I had to go to the bathroom, so I just chose the seats that weren't taken.
How dare you go to the bathroom? You ruin everything.
It's in college, so nobody cares if you just leave during the class because you're an adult and they trust you to make your own decisions.
I wanted to leave in the middle of class on Thursday. I didn't. I stayed the entire day. I wanted to leave because I was just, like, struggling to stay awake, and I was worried, like, okay, I have, like, maybe another, like, few hours left in me. I want to waste all that energy on the drive home rather than mentally focusing on the class. Because I keep feeling like I'm going to pass out and die on the highway at some point because it's a 40-minute drive.
You need to get more sleep.
I get a lot of sleep.
But you don't get the good amount. You don't have like a sleep schedule. You don't do things in a way that encourages actual rest.
That's true. Well, you know, it seems like my schedule is sleep for 19 hours a day on the times I don't have college, and then sleep 2 hours a day on the days I do have college. And that's very rough back and forth, and I need to stop.
You do.
Because I'm starting to feel, like, physically exhausted all the time, even when I'm not even doing anything physically demanding. It's very rough. Oh, hey, something else I wanted to talk about. Okay, so, my new comic, I Am Become Pestilence, working title. Might change it. I have the first issue written. The whole script is entirely done. Might do a little bit of editing on it today after the podcast. But the cool thing is I finally narrowed down my artists. I have 2 of them working on it just because the story kind of hops back and forth a lot with flashbacks to like like an earlier era in the character's life and then now, and I thought it would be cool to have both of them doing the art for it.
Is the earlier era the thing before You-Know-Who dies?
Yeah.
Because I read half of it and then I gave up.
Well, yeah. Well, there's also a bunch of other stuff that, a lot of people on the first read through assume, because again the comic originally existed as a novel. A lot of people assume on the first read through that the flashbacks are just to accentuate a character dying or a character doing something bad. To like set up character building. It actually sets up the entire plot of everything. It's just in a very specific and weird way that I'm hoping people pick up on it. But yeah, I probably shouldn't get any more into spoilers. Be as vague as possible. But we have both of our artists. My friend
you guys
Damien.
should read it. I think that I read the back when it was a novel, and I think that honestly, this is kind of a backhanded compliment, but I think it works better as a comic book.
Well, that was just because the way I wrote it, because I started writing it in like 8th or 9th grade. And back then, I just had this weird writing style that actually lends itself very well to comic writing, and not at all to novel writing.
Really, it doesn't work as a novel writing.
I've broken out of that, but still, like, I did all 200 pages of it that way, so it just kind of reads really weird, because there's almost zero physical description of anyone, right? Like, but there's tons and tons and tons of action description, like, and even, like, description of, like, emotional tones on people's faces. Like, I almost kind of accidentally wrote it like a script from the get-go for a comic book. So it works really well being converted. It's also kind of weird having to adapt my own story to a different format.
Well, that's what Tommy Wiseau did. He first wrote it as a book, then he wrote it as a stage play.
Do you think The Room works better as a novel? Like without all the incompetence. Oh, hi. Neon is impressive looking, though. Okay, you could... Hi! Back to what I was talking about. Do you think The Room works better as a novel? Like, without all the incompetence in acting and filmmaking, do you think the plot
that Tommy Wiseau is a bad enough writer that... It was also, like, a really long book, like 500 or 600 pages.
Do you think, oh, hi, Mark, how's your sex life? Still just it doesn't work.
In a perfect world, it would be just as awkward.
Okay. Man, I love me some The Room. It's such a... I'm super excited for Disaster Artist. That looks great. I especially like how much work they put into making James Franco look like Tommy Wiseau.
Hey, you want my favorite story about that movie is that because James Franco directed the movie in addition to starring as Tommy. So my
That's
favorite thing
meta.
is that when he directed it, he directed in the Tommy voice.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
that is my favorite part.
Awesome. I would have loved to be on set while he's accidentally, like, saying because if you watch interviews with him, he's still speaking
he kind of
very
slips
slurred.
into the Tommy accent, even when he's in an interview with Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, he's sitting right next to the real Tommy Wiseau doing an interview, and he's accidentally starting to talk like him again, and you're wondering if everyone in the room is aware of it. Or if like they're just like, I just probably just said something weird, or it's the best, man. So
you want to talk about this Oscar season, because it's kind of interesting.
I hope either Logan or Disaster Artist wins.
Wins what?
Those are my picks. Wins the Oscar.
So
which one? Whichever.
So there's of course 2 Matt Damon movies that are coming up for this Oscar season. Suburbicon, directed by George Clooney, and Downsizing, directed by Alexander Payne, and I think Downsizing looks amazing.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I saw the trailer for Downsizing, by the way. I don't... Now, I guess it's an interesting premise, but my problem with it is I don't see really any plot conflict anywhere.
Well, I've read some articles about it, and there is. They're just not revealing what it is.
Is there a villain?
Let's just say that everything is not as happy as it seems in the tiny little. I love how it's called Leisureland, the fake world, like the little, it's like a suburban housing development, except it's really tiny, and if you look in the trailers you can see that there's like a little mesh over everything, and that's like the development that they live in. It's called, and that's kind of a fun detail. But let's just say that in that Leisureland area, not everything, there's a dark side to it.
Okay, so it's like one of those, like, hey, wow, this community looks really great. Everything seems to be looking up. And then it turns out that, like, one of the people there is, like kidnapping black people to put his brain inside them or something?
Yeah, except It's not the plot to get out.
Spoiler. Sorry. But you get what I mean, right?
Yeah, I do. It's kind of like that. And
okay. I guess I'd be interested to see what exactly direction that goes.
And I think that it's a very interesting Oscar season this year because there's stuff like that, and then there's stuff like 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. That's a big contender. It's and then there's stuff like that movie Call Me by Your Name, which we already talked about. That's supposed to be an Oscar contender too.
I really feel like this year's lineup just isn't as interesting to me as previous years. Like, I don't know. I feel like there have been some great movies in 2017. I feel like they're kind of just nominating just a bunch of random ones I haven't really ever heard of.
Well, that's because you don't hear about these movies until they get nominated, unless you're like me and you read what's happening in the indie festival circuit.
For me, it's just like I go based on like what looks interesting from a trailer. If I don't see any trailer at all and then only hear about it by the time it becomes, Oscar relevant, I feel like that to me is like a clear sign that movie was specifically made for the Oscar season and not necessarily just to function as a movie on its own.
Well, of course, all these are meant to function as movies, but there's this subset of movies that people would not pay for unless there's the Oscar on the box. Like, who would see a movie about a morbidly depressed mother who decides to pay for a bunch of road signs outside of her small town, asking the sheriff why he hasn't solved the murder yet, unless it won Oscars for Best Actress or something.
That sounds like a really boring premise.
Well, it's also got the line where on the news, the main character says, "I think the police department is too busy torturing black folks to actually solve the crime."
Socially relevant. Oh my god. The filmmakers were so brave for including such rich subtext about current police affairs.
That's not supposed to be a insightful line. It's just this character saying weird things because she's weird.
But isn't it supposed to be like in a small southern town?
It's in Missouri, so not exactly southern.
I don't think anyone in Missouri is going to give a shit about that. Having been there, I genuinely don't think there's going to be like any like super in your face hates the cops kind of leftists in Missouri. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe it was just the part of Missouri I was in.
I think so little about Missouri that I wouldn't be surprised if there were if
I don't know. Missouri is the origin of a novel that has a prominent character named N-word Jim. I don't know. I don't exactly consider that place the most let's say sensitive, but I don't know. It's been a couple hundred years.
There's also a movie called A Lady Bird that I think is interesting, starring Saoirse Ronan. And it's interesting because it's kind of like, what is it? It's one of those teenage coming-of-age movies, except that the movie looks to be a little bit more critical of the main character than most sort of coming-of-age teenage movies are. How, like...
I'm actually always into movies that have very, shitty main character. Like, I mean, like, the main character is, like, kind of an asshole, but trying to be better.
Yeah, this main character says, like, oh, I want to get into... She basically sort of constantly complains about things, and it's kind of like, the way I think about it is that there's a trailer, you can look it up. It's like, if Fault in Our Stars was more realistic about the way the main character would really act, given that she's so disillusioned with, like, life and everything and mainstream society.
So it's like an emo teenager story, except that's not glamorized as, it's okay, we the filmmakers get you.
Yeah.
Poor, misunderstood race of young people. No,
yeah, that's the way I think about it.
So
I think would be a pretty good
teenagers are obnoxious when they're constantly complaining about how hard life is.
Yeah.
When it's not.
That's the way I think about this movie.
Again, on antidepressant pills, still taking this hardline stance. Life's not that hard, shut up.
On antidepressant pills.
On antidepressant pills, everyone be quiet.
Your
problems aren't that bad.
To the Tumblrites of this world.
I'm a very confusing person.
And you have a Tumblr.
Oh yeah, I have a Tumblr now. Well, okay. It's so I can complain about things at length, but not have to make videos about them.
That's what that is the description about Tumblr. So I can complain about things at length without having any skills, enough skills
but
to do it on YouTube.
I wrote about like how hard it is to have to drive an hour and a half to school every day. I didn't write about annoying things. And I'll be posting Contest of Slashers on there as soon as it's done. Whenever the hell that'll be.
Oh, and speaking of updates of hosting, I'm currently exploring hosting this podcast on SoundCloud, so then I can get an RSS feed to put it on iTunes. So stay tuned for that. I don't know. It might cost a bit. It might cost a bit of money. So I'm working on it. Hopefully, it'll be possible. But yeah.
Speaking of cool stuff that we're working on. So yeah, I forgot to say earlier. My comic has 2 artists now that are working on it. Both fantastic.
So this is not Contest of Slashers.
No, this is a different one. This is an original story that I have been working on for like 5 years now. If I were to elevator pitch it, I'd say think Dead Space mixed with
Fallout New Vegas.
Dead Space mixed with a Clockwork Orange. That's what I would say.
A Clockwork Vegas?
A Clockwork Vegas. A Clockwork Sony Vegas. And it's going really well. Right now, we have 2 artists working on it. My friend Damien, who's the colorist for Contest of Slashers.
He's an artist? I thought he just colors stuff.
No. Well, I was... you gotta let me finish. This one, he's not coloring just because that would be a little bit too much work for him. But because he's such a Photoshop whiz, he is doing the lettering. So he'll be doing all the word bubbles and letters and stuff. And the constant dialogue. You see the
inner monologues
I'm actually,
of your tortured, mentally depressed protagonist?
Depressed is putting it lightly.
Well, he's mentally disgorged. I don't know. What's the better word for this?
A violent psychopath? Anyway,
so you.
Yes. It's basically my autobiography. I'm a black police officer on a different planet in the future.
You should change that. You change your Tumblr bio to that. No, your Twitter bio. Do it.
I'm a black police officer on a different planet from the future. Look how progressive I am.
Do it.
In every sense of the word.
I'm telling you. Do it. Now.
I already changed my Skype icon to Sonic for you.
Nobody really cares about that because they can't see it.
You can. Look, it's Xavier the Hedgehog. By the way, kids,
I can.
Do something. Here's something fun, kids. Go type in your name and then follow it up with the Hedgehog. So if you look up like Xavier the Hedgehog or David the Hedgehog or Damien the Hedgehog, whatever. If you type
Brian
it in,
the Hedgehog,
you'll get fan art. There's something for almost every name, and
except
it's
for
always
Cleopatra.
There's no Cleopatra the Hedgehog. I beg to differ. I'm gonna look this up right now. Cleopatra the Hedge.
You have to send it to me because this is amazing.
And let's see here. Aha! Wait, hold on. So far, I got Casey the Hedgehog and Alicia the Hedgehog, and then there's just a picture of Sonic and Shadow just furiously making out in a field. Don't
you love Sonic?
Nancy, Cassidy, Sylvia, Lamina. Damn, I guess there's not a Cleopatra the Hedgehog. That sucks.
I was right.
Get on it, artists. You go make more Sonic OCs for us to laugh over. There's not enough in this world. Lord knows there's not enough Sonic OCs in this society.
So,
but anyway, I also have a colorist.
So,
my buddy Joey. He's gonna color the comic, probably, maybe.
Joe, like
yeah.
Joe Michael Straczynski is coloring your comic.
Yeah, that guy. The guy who did all the special icons for my Discord server, and also a little bit of art for just various videos and stuff. Yeah, he's gonna probably do the coloring on it unless something changes. But the thing is that one of the other artists is super talented with coloring, and then of course Damien's pretty good at it too. So if anything happens, we have like 3 people who can work
so you want, I just thought I'd change the tone of the show a little bit, because you're ranting about somebody like, Sam Delot. Sam Delot, who, is very political in a bad way.
Yeah.
Let's just list off a couple of stories that we think are political, but in a good way, so we can compare. I'm going to say Star Trek, number 1. Star Trek, obviously.
X-Men.
And number 2 is Babylon 5. Joe Michael Straczynski, so if you're watching this and you're a Spider-Man fan, you should know who that guy is.
Okay, the guy who wrote David's favorite TV show ever in the history of the universe also wrote Spider-Man for like 8 years.
So if you're watching this, you should go and watch his show, Babylon 5, which is on a free streaming service called Go90. And which means you don't need to pay, you don't even need to make an account. But you can watch...
Seriously, just log in and there's all kinds of random stuff.
There's all kinds of random millennial crap, but they also have Babylon 5, which is, in my opinion, the best TV show ever made. So it's political, it's like, we need to... Fascism is bad, we need to embrace other people, other aliens, we need to be nice to each other, all that. But it's not talking down to you, and it's never dismissive of anyone, and it's very open and inclusive, while I think the problem with, like, Marvel Comics, is the way I interpret it, is that it's very divisive.
It's very aimed at demonizing specific groups of people, and when you're not in those groups of people, it's just more frustrating than ever, because it's just, here's 6 pages of talking shit about someone I don't even care about. Like, I just want to get back to the important part, the story, in my story.
So if you're listening to this, you need to check out Babylon 5 right now.
Babylon 5 is pretty damn good. I've seen a lot of clips of it.
And you haven't watched it because you don't...
I have a hard time watching TV shows at length right now. I barely struggled my way to watch like 3 episodes of Mr. Robot in like 2 weeks. It's a big project.
You're so cruel to yourself. You're denying yourself this amazing story. Because
I know.
Babylon 5 is the best.
Okay. Now, But hold on, I want to give my generalized stance on the concept of writing politics into your stories.
Yeah.
Every good writer does it. There's no such thing as just a completely substanceless story where it's just here's a bunch of stuff that happens.
There's always some sort of politics because
there's always some kind of comment about social status, class.
No matter what story you're reading, it says something about the story that we're in or the world that we're in. It
says something about the world around you. That's how you do good stories. Like, for example, I mean, Superman is an immigrant trying to make his new home a better place, right? A lot of people could identify with that, and he's been around for 75 years or more. Mm-hmm. Batman is a one percenter who tries to use his wealth to make his community a better place, right?
And also punches poor people
and punches clowns. And Captain America punches Nazis, but is also
he is a Nazi.
I love the decision Marvel has is as soon as a certain group of people starts getting really like verbal and angry in America again after being like kind of quiet for a super long time, suddenly it's like, yeah, we should make Captain America a Nazi right now. I mean, it's the time when we would need him most.
To be honest, that false equivalency between you're a Nazi, you're punching Nazis, so you're just as bad is kind of the same thing in real life a little bit than it is in the comics. So yeah, it's unintentionally that way. But
there was once a comic I read with Captain America where there was a bunch of it was weird how relevant it seemed today because it was very down the middle and just promoted peace. It wasn't about like picking a side over the other because it was about Captain America sees a bunch of people doing like this like racist protest, like saying all kinds of horrible shit and talking about how America is falling apart. And then a Jewish guy runs up and starts trying to like get in their face and starts fighting them. And Captain America yells at both groups and says, if you fight them like physically and if you don't fight them with words, you're doing it wrong.
Did you see that there was that Fox News article where they were all getting super pissed that Superman was defending immigrants from people who wanted to kill them? I mean, that's kind of what Superman does.
Superman doesn't let people die from no matter where they're from on the planet.
He's
Superman also doesn't snap people's necks.
I love Fox News' logic because according to them, an American hero means that he doesn't save them from being killed. He'll just kick them so they're back in Mexico again or something.
Ugh,
that's an American hero. Yeah. Enough about politics.
Well, what I want to say is, the problem is that you can have politics in your story. You can have some kind of statement that's relevant to you that you believe is true. And if you do it because superheroes and stories are supposed to have values.
No, here's the key, if I may chime in, is that you can have politics as a theme, as a message, as an idea. But
when it's the main focus,
don't let it overcome the characters and the story, because Babylon 5 is about being accepting of other people who believe other things and finding the common ground between people. Even those things
you don't necessarily agree with or think are right.
But they're not. That's not what it's all about. It's about the characters and the story as they learn to do these things. So, there are speeches about it, and there are long speeches about certain philosophical tangents. But always they're either an expression of what a character believes as they're telling it to another, or they're reflecting of an inner state of a character as they're developing and growing. So it all serves the story. And that's what I think is the key of being political, is always do it in service of the story that you're telling.
The story should not be in service of your message. It should be the other way around. Now, another point I want to make is you don't have to be so damn specific. You can have some really generalized, really
It's called allegory, folks.
Yeah. You don't have to just specifically say, hey, this group of people disagrees with me. I think they're cunts, and I don't want them to have an opinion, and we should kick them out. Blah 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 blah. That's really reductive and annoying and aggressive. You know what you can do? You can have just general themes of, hey kids, be a good person. Superman helps people no matter where they're from. You know? He doesn't specifically sit down and go, you know, that current president sure is a real fuck-up, guys. I should probably just tear the roof off the White House and get rid of him. Like, there's a reason why DC is doing better right now than Marvel, is because the writers over at DC know how to have, like, politically and socially relevant, like, topics without just screaming in your face about it. Those are very different things.
Screaming in your face about it is my favorite part. Like in Chappie, when Hugh Jackman's character threatens Dev Patel's character in the middle of a crowded office and nobody noticed, I'm going to kill you unless you give me the code to the robots that would basically destroy the world. No, but no one will notice,
because he said...
Nobody will notice. And then he says, oh, I'm just kidding. Oh, and by the way, you should go to my church, because I'm a Christian. And I just held a gun at you. So you know everything about me from this one interaction. I don't need to have a three-dimensional character. I'm the villain, and I'm the villain.
I am a guy who loves God, but also points guns at people's heads.
Exactly.
You know, here's the thing. I think, I don't know where you stand exactly, but I'm very apolitical. I find myself falling really down in the middle on a lot of things, and it's very easy for both sides of the argument to annoy the shit out of me.
Well,
because I feel like both of them are making things worse by the way they go about things.
The one thing that I will say is that I don't like it when people say, oh, I'm apolitical. I think both sides have an argument. Because on a certain issue,
both sides have a strong argument.
There is a right and a wrong argument for... There is a right and a wrong argument for certain issues. We know that this is real, and the people who say that it isn't real are deluding themselves. But what I will amend that to say, some people have the right... both sides have the right answer about certain things.
Exactly. Like, there are some times where I feel like maybe certain people are way more correct about something than the other side, but then the other side has their shit together for a different topic. When I feel that the problem...
I hate the argument that you say, oh, both sides have an argument, because there's a right and a wrong answer. It depends on what you're talking about.
I think both sides just tend to ruin their argument, so it sounds like no one's right sometimes. Just because no one knows how to handle certain things. But I'll say, in a general sense, I think it's a big problem in America right now that everyone wants to pick a team jersey. Like, I'm going to be on this side only. I'm going to agree with everything this side says. There's no free thinking. There's no having an opinion of your own. It's, okay, my team says this, so I have to agree.
I can agree with that, too, because this past election cycle, my mom voted a straight one-party ticket. And in case you don't know what this is, basically she voted for, in every election in the state of Colorado, she voted for the candidate who was running on a certain party. Meanwhile, she complained about how the party that she was previously a part of in the 70s used to call her and tell her what to vote about on certain issues.
Yeah, there's like this peer pressure now. Like, you have to make sure that you fall on the same side on every single issue. It's weird. It feels like everything's just dumber now. You know? No one's allowed to just think for themselves.
I mean, this is kind of like a dumb cliche argument, but I think it's kind of like it's what kind of information and what media people take in. Because if you read only a certain side of things, then you get a certain view of the world, and then you vote based upon that view which is only a certain idea, and then if you're only exposed to those ideas.
I would encourage people, in order to be
I'm
more
hoping
free-thinking and individuals.
If you'll allow me to say this, I'm hoping that my mom never hears this podcast, and I'm estimating that she won't, because I'm going to give yourself a little secret here, is that right before I left for college, I went on her phone and on her Facebook and unfollowed her from certain extreme-leaning sites on one side, and then I followed her to certain moderate-leaning sites on the other side.
Wow.
So then, like, in the next few days, she started quoting about these certain articles from different news sources that I had subscribed to her to surreptitiously. So, even if she doesn't know about it, she's getting a more balanced media diet than she used to.
That's awesome. So, I don't imagine she'll ever hear this, because, like, who would get through the first couple of minutes where we're talking about, what was it? Japan having to censor out genitals, as well as something about
nuclear
radiation. Do you think that Japan just became so irradiated that everyone just had pixels like put onto their nethers, and that's just how they look there? Like, maybe there isn't a law.
Yes.
They just say that so the outside world won't be so judgmental.
Yes.
Oh, okay. So concrete fact, people from Japan have blurred out nether regions.
Yes.
And they just cooked up a story to make it seem a little less weird for the outside world.
Mm-hmm. So are you excited for Star Trek Discovery?
Not really.
'Cause that's coming up pretty soon. So
are you excited for the
Can I take a little bit of an opportunity to address, like, the fan reaction to it, and I also want to kind of clarify my own statements on it. So, as you know, I made a video back April about Star Trek called Star Wreck, What's Wrong with Discovery? And I feel like that sort of, like, eye-catching clickbait title kind of attracted a weird audience to it. I mean, it's a highly viewed video, but I get some weird comments on it. So, basically, I was just saying, I don't like Star Trek Discovery because it looks a little bit too epic. It's a war story to me, that's what it looks like. And Star Trek isn't about war, it's about peace. So that's why I don't like the direction that the new show is going. But there's, like, I'm looking at the suggestions, and these are really weird videos, like Star Trek Discovery, continuity errors, timeline and alteration errors. This is not Star Trek. This looks terrible. Rant about Discovery. Why Star Trek fails. Star Trek Discovery is SJW bullshit. Transgender officer and implant reform for change. So, I think it's kind of funny to see the way Star Trek is being treated in this new media landscape, where the idea that there should be black people in a show about about the future is suddenly a lot more political than it used to be.
This thing that's been in this show for like
this is what boggles
decades.
my mind about people who are pissed off at Star Trek Discovery for SJW bullshit, is that SJW bullshit has been a part of the show's DNA since the very beginning.
That was kind of the appeal.
Where were you when the Star Trek had the first interracial kiss ever on television? Where were you when a Soviet officer and a U.S. officer were working on the same bridge together? Where were you? This is nothing new. They had a black captain in the 90s. They had a first female captain. They had all this stuff that's been part of Star Trek's DNA since the very beginning. Having a black female on the lead and having a openly gay member of the cast is part of what Star Trek is about.
It's like how people get, like, pissed off when X-Men has, like, allegories for racism. It's literally the entire point.
So there's been a few comments on the video. I'm not going to say they're the majority, but they're a part of it, that feel either very surreptitiously racist or just outright racist. and they're saying, "Oh, Star Trek has changed. It's so different from what it was before." And that's where I just roll my eyes and laugh, because that's what Star Trek is about. It is about
the
a
problem
future
is not
where
the,
we
the
all
cast.
yes.
The problem
Sorry.
is not the cast; it's it's just the tone and pacing of it.
Exactly. If
they're trying to make Star Wars.
If you look at the trailer music that they play during the trailers for Star Trek Discovery, it's epic. It's like action music that you would see in a trailer for a J.J. Abrams movie. It's not sort of like the Jerry Goldsmith theme for the original show that's very uplifting and adventurous. It's darker. It's kind of like Game of Thrones in space, minus the nudity, because it's about war. It's not about peace. That's what I disagree with. But, like, the rest of it, having black people in a TV show, having an Asian female captain, that's not a big deal. That's what this show is about. It's part of why it's kind of encouraging to have a TV show where everybody is working together, thinking about things rationally, and creating a better future together. And to me, Star Trek isn't about being perfect. Far from it. A lot of my problems with
the whole point is the quest to be perfect.
Yeah.
And
a lot of my problems with the first 2 seasons of The Next Generation were when Gene Roddenberry's vision of a utopian future went too far, and there was just no interpersonal conflict between the characters. The best version of Star Trek is stuff like The Drumhead, where an admiral comes aboard the Enterprise, and there's a witch hunt for a Romulan spy, but suddenly we realize that's a bad idea. It's about striving for a better world, and that's what I like so much about Star Trek. And
no, I absolutely agree. Though
in the kind of troubled times, and when we were talking about the idea of having more balanced and showing the different nuances in an idea, that's thought of me an episode of Star Trek. I'm gonna try and find it. No. It's a season 3, episode 12, The High Ground. It's not an episode that a lot of people really talk about, but it's one of my favorites. It's where there is a Federation ally called Rudia 4, which is an alien colony, and it's racked by terrorism, and of course Dr. Crusher is kidnapped because she's on the surface, and then she tries to help people, and then they take her away. But so the whole story is like Commander Riker working with the leader of the security, and then of course Beverly Crusher with the terrorist, and of course they cast like a young sort of like handsome-y generic lead actorman to play the terrorist captain.
Generic Nathan Drake looking guy.
And you think that it's going to be about the brave struggle of the terrorists to stave off the evil government, and you think that's going to be the story, the way they paint it early on. But then they reveal a lot more layers to it, and there's this great monologue where this, like, I hesitate to say this word, but hard-ass female, like, captain in the government has this great monologue where she says, like, you know what I would want? I want to walk down the street and not worry about blowing up. But until then, we're going to have to do this because there's no other option. And then, of course, you reveal other things about the terrorists that, yeah, they have a legitimate request, but they're also kind of scummy people, and they're also exploiting all these kids, and they're going to kill them and all this stuff. But it's great in terms of revealing, like, the layers behind the situation, so you should check it out. And I think that's the kind of political stuff we need, is where it's a little bit more nuanced, because in today's media, especially with the type of president that we have, it's very easy to write off one side as the bad guy and write off the other side as the good guy. Do you agree?
I think so. I think everyone's a little bit too quick to just start shitting on each other as the bad guy, like, dismiss all their ideas, treat them like garbage. Like, people need to be a little bit more. Because here's the thing, like, when I say this, someone's gonna go, "Oh, well, you're just advocating for listening to the ideas of racists and evil people." It's like, no, I mean, just hear people out, because they might not actually be the evil buzzword that you've already applied to them. They might
Can I have one small rant as well?
Yeah. Well, his whole video has been kind of a rant.
Well, sometimes I like to read, like, the Hollywood trades, and I read reviews of, like, movies and stuff. And a popular buzzword in the film reviewer vocabulary these days is, especially in today's era, or Trump's America, this story is relevant because of XXY. And I'm kind of sick of that. Not that because having stories with themes that are relevant in today's audiences is bad. It's just that it's kind of a cheap buzzword to just say, oh, it's so relevant because we acknowledge that these things that are obviously bad are bad. It's a cheap gimmick to sell a movie. That, oh, look, it's so relevant. The Handmaid's Tale is so relevant to what's going on. This is so relevant. That's a big buzzword today, relevant, and Trump's America era, stuff like that.
It's really obnoxious because it's just like,
tell your story and sell us on the story itself. Don't tell us about how it's so woke, you guys, because we acknowledge that bad things exist.
The thing that's especially annoying is that sometimes it's just stuff that's existed forever. Like, hey, here's a generalized story. Man, it's almost like racism hasn't been a problem in America for, like, you know.
Hey, it's almost as if racism has been a part of America for a long time or something, and it's not like it's anything new.
No, but it's really relevant today.
Because we have
racism only exists as of the end of last year.
Mm-hmm. Racism only became a problem, what is it, November, whatever, 2016.
No, it's not like that's been a problem for a very, very long time. Stupid. Okay, thank you, consliberals and libservatives. You're all very terrible people. You make everything annoying and unfun. Consliberals and libservatives. That's my new words. Because really, if you think about it, it's all the same shit.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
I'm sorry for how political this episode got.
I wasn't expecting that at all. I mean, that got crazy.
Well, considering, I guess it's just been on a lot of my mind lately because I've been around different people.
What happened yesterday, I've been thinking about it a lot. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm kind of sick about talking about politics, but I feel like it's somewhat necessary to think about these issues to be an informed citizen and to vote in a reasonably rational way. So it's important, but I'm also sick of it. It's annoying. You
know, I wish we could live in a world where people would, like, give each other art and then not have to argue about everything unrelated to the art.
Also, I can say with 100. I have a kind of a unique position with the election that I'm very proud of. Is that I wasn't old enough to vote. I turned 18 shortly afterwards, so I was just old enough to start thinking about these things, but not quite old enough to have to take a side. So I can say that. Thanks, both of you. Thanks, both Republicans and Democrats. You did a great job, and it would have been so much better if I'd been able to vote. You voted.
I voted. I didn't feel good about it.
You were part of the problem. No, you weren't, because your candidate didn't get elected, and didn't even get a majority in the state that you live in.
I voted for someone who I specifically knew would kind of probably not even...
He is a meme.
Yeah, I voted for the meme guy.
Yeah,
that's how bad it got. And
you didn't vote for the guy with the bucket on his with the boot on his head. You didn't vote for Vermin Supreme. You didn't vote for the guy who wants, I don't know, other joke candidates. You voted for the meme candidate that was actually had a chance of winning elected until he became a meme of stupidity.
Yes. This is how this society works.
And it's funny because there's actually a bunch of people who align with that person's political beliefs at the school that I go to, and they all kind of hate him.
I'm sorry, I zoned out. What?
I was saying that the people who align with that meme candidate's political beliefs all kind of hate him. They said,
yeah.
If we had a different candidate, then we could have actually won that year, but no one got that anymore.
Yeah, everyone's always kind of like giving him like this, if we had a better option.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel about it.
If we had a better option is the defining phrase for this last year's election.
It feels like the defining phrase for forever. It's just that everyone keeps forgetting about it. Like, remember when that really great president, who at the time everyone thought he was complete bullshit?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like everyone's gonna always.
I feel like the default example for that is John
current.
Kennedy. Not that many people liked him when he was actually in office. He was a good orator, but he wasn't remembered. Nobody really liked him. But then when he was assassinated, everybody looked on him a little bit more kindly than they did. And I feel like everybody's going to look a lot more kindly on Obama than he actually was, because he stands in such dark contrast to the guy that follows him.
Yeah. It's, well, what do you mean contrast in a visual sense?
In a visual sense? In the way that he acts? In the stuff that he did? In the way he presented himself to people? In every possible way, except for gender.
Those darn cis white male presidents. I'm on to you, Obama.
Yeah, he was secretly a cis white man, too. He was just... No, he was just... What if he was an alien in a robot suit?
Some people say that he was a lizard person.
No. Here's the thing.
He was a proud Asian woman.
No. Here's what it is. The royal family of England are lizard people. That is true. But, have you seen Men in Black?
Yes.
You know the tiny little guy that pilots the robot of a person?
Yeah.
That was Obama.
Oh, okay.
So get it straight, people. The royal families of all of European countries are lizard people. Lizards rule Europe, but robots rule the U.S.
Okay, so
robots piloted by tiny aliens.
Eventually, there will be a dramatically explosive war between the lizards and the robots.
Yeah, that's going to happen eventually. Although the way I hear it is that all the Illuminati is currently taking over the Asia Pacific region, so they're all vying for that right now. So we're gonna see what happens in the future.
Okay.
I think that's a good time to end. Is there anything else you want to say before we tune off? Tune in next week. Isn't there something going to be happening next week?
Yes. Next week we're going to attempt to have the podcast live.
If it's up to me, we're probably going to do like a face cam, like a Skype call that we stream from one of our computers, and you're going to be able to see our beautiful faces
while I stare off at this video game.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to stream it on Godzilla Mendoza's channel, because that's the channel that actually has subscribers. So you need to start working on an announcement video, right?
Yeah, I'll probably end up getting that. Here's the thing. The other day when I was just testing the OBS that I downloaded, the second I accidentally hit stream, like 46 people hopped in the first minute. I really don't even know if I need to do a announcement stream, because
you should.
Or
so then,
because on a Sunday afternoon, I feel like a lot of people are gonna join in.
So just do an announcement on Twitter, even.
Yeah, I'll try that.
And we will.
Because that'll be like 2,000 people.
So we will see you in a week, because we record these on Sundays. So next time you're actually going to be able to see us on a Sunday. instead of on a Wednesday or whenever these things come out normally. So if you're watching this on a Wednesday, then you have even less time until the stream. So see you there.
Hi, see you there. Also,
we won't be as political this time. I promise.
Because then we'll probably just be talking about sex the entire time.
We'll be getting whatever your awkward fan questions are.
Oh yeah. Okay, so like, how long have you two been a couple? Never. But hopefully he'll finally start reading my emails, and we'll get some progress going. Who knows?
I think he's ugly. That's why I'm not dating him.
I'm pretty. Someone out there thinks I'm pretty.
Yeah, no. Bye.
That girl from Mexico thought. Actually, no, she didn't. Never mind.
Bye.
Bye. Sorry for the politics. It won't happen again.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Bye.
Bad. Bye.
This ending is taking so long. We'll see you later. Bye.